So, welcome everybody to yet another live interview with Become a Fearless Father. And I got Chris Niemeyer with me. And, usually I am together. We're playing a little joke today because actually I brought a mirror. Watch this. Watch me turn the mirror right now. Boom. Huh? What do you guys think?
We are brothers, man. Look at this. Clean shaven all around, black shirts on.
Yeah, exactly.
So
people are gonna freak when they see this later or right now. They're like, "What?" Because I had hair like everywhere, and I shaved it all off. Well, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's recent, right? I want to hear about this.
Just this morning, it was vengeance.
This morning, wow.
It was vengeance. I was upset with my wife. I said, "You know what? I know you like my hair. I know you like my facial hair. I'm gonna shave it all off."
Interesting. Okay, maybe we'll have to unpack that here on the show.
Yeah, exactly. No, I already went live on it. It's just a joke, but it's hot, man. I actually just posted on my Facebook saying, "It is so hot in here. Do you think my guest would mind if I do the live interview butt naked?"
How hot is it? Because I'm right there with you, man. It's about 95 degrees here today in Florida and humid.
Yeah, exactly. So here, now I got to think of Fahrenheit, like about the same. Like it's 35 degrees, which then is considered heat wave. And I think that's worldwide is heat wave, right? Yeah. What is that? 97 then in Fahrenheit?
I was going to say, yeah, that's real close to 100, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's nice. And I'm sweating, which I don't like. And so I decided to shave. That was
I've got a fan going on back here in my corner. So yeah.
I gotta get mine in the closet. But we go to the beach tomorrow, so it's all good.
There you go.
Hey, awesome. before we get into everything else, I forgot to mention before we start going live, make sure you stick after we're done, okay? So I got always 3 questions I'd like to ask when nobody's around.
Got it.
Okay, man, I love what you guys are doing. I checked it out. I'm going to share right away. Look, man, for all the people that are hopping on, I put this in the comment section. If you're watching this, click on the link. You can check out the website for yourself. It immediately gets you an amazing picture of 4 guys working on entrepreneurial family life, right? So let's talk about that first, and then we're going to introduce you a bit more, Chris. So what is entrepreneurial family life all about?
Yeah, we are, as we say in our show, we've got about 77 shows out this past year and a half.
Nice.
Our tagline is this: we're crazy about our wives, we love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. And so the show is just dedicated to talking about those domains, that entrepreneurship and business, but then being present, invested in our marriages and our families, being an engaged and active father. So many times, as you know, there's a lot of people that talk about business or entrepreneurship, or there's the other spectrum of only talking about, marriage. We're saying this is real. This is a tension that exists. It's tough as men to navigate those, but we want to do well in all those domains. And so we have a great time. The 4 of us, we're all entrepreneurs. We're all coaches. We've got big families. And so we just have a blast talking about that and then leading a group of men through that with a mastermind and coaching community and Facebook group.
Awesome, man. I love it. Yep. So for everybody watching, this is a trial version. So if this goes well with Chris, all the other guys that kind of come on well as well. Chris actually asked me, like, would you be cool with all of us coming on at the same time? And I felt so overwhelmed. I'm like, can we just do you first and then maybe do it afterwards? Because I actually find that a really cool idea. And Andy was just sharing that his maximum was 4, being with 4 in one show. So if you 4 guys would be on there, that would make 5.
Yeah. So, someone's got to leave the island.
That's awesome. So we're definitely going for that. So I appreciate you sharing that. So before we continue, I'm too enthusiastic. I keep forgetting to switch. Before we continue, Chris, please share me your background story and what for the people to get a very good picture about you. Also, your family setup. So marriage, for how long, What else is important? Of course, how many kids, the age, daughters, sons, etc. Right?
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Well, so my first career was actually 6 years in politics, of all things. I jumped right from college into the political world. I ran a big political action committee in Southern California for a bunch of rich guys that wanted to influence politics, and learned a lot from some of them were great. Don't get me wrong, but I also got to see behind the curtain of politics and was like, this is not a good trajectory. And so made the jump in 2006 from a really nice paying job into this whole idea of entrepreneurship and starting your own business. And so my wife and I created this idea of starting an online travel company serving the missions community, humanitarian community. So that's a company that we grew. We've now got 12 employees, a team that's just awesome. But it's all virtual. And so they help individuals, groups, churches, universities with their humanitarian travel all around the world. That was our first company. We still own that, but I don't have an active role in there anymore. I've got an amazing team that runs that. And then we started another travel company. And so we've got that one going. We dove into just this idea of starting businesses that other people are really good at running. And I just kind of get to be the one that gets to be the owner, coach them along the way, and let that team fulfill their talents. So we started having kids. We've got now 4 amazing kids, 10, 8, 6, and 3. So we are never bored here. Been married for almost 18 years next month. Wow. And just loving life. We've really thought about this idea of designing the life you want and making the business around that, making the business serve the lifestyle that you want. So really designing, what does our lifestyle want to be? We have a short amount of time with these kids in our household, and want to serve them well, want to love on them well, want to be present and engaged with them. And so that's life up to this point.
Nice, man. I love it. Wow. I love that. So where everybody else, right, works, focus on work. If they're lucky, it's a job that they like. Most of the time they don't, because I keep hearing more and more stats of how many people actually do not like their job, right? 75%, 80%, 70%, but in that range, right? 70 to 80%, which is insane, right? And here are you sitting with and then sharing that you and your wife decide we are going to design our life, right? We're going to determine this is going to be our life. And then you construct your business and how you want to set that up and you work around it to help that vision instead of trying to do it the other way around, which, is it makes sense. But I bet that takes a lot of courage. All right.
It takes a lot of courage. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of unknowns and some uncertainties when you first identify that's what you want to do. And you say, boy, how do we get there? That's the vision way over there. What's this path look like, right? But yeah, you hit on the head there. There are so many people around the world that are frankly dying a slow death in the cubicle, right? They're just like, we have this whole concept here in America called the American dream. It's like, you go to college, you get the girl, you get the house, you get the picket fence, you get the car, you work for 40 years. And maybe if you're lucky, you might have a few good years to travel the world before, you keel over.
Yeah.
I just don't buy that, man. And so I'm saying, how can we just reverse that almost? How can we live the life we want to live someday? I got a good buddy, actually, Jamie Slingerland, who's also on the EFM show. He talks about this thing called someday I'll. Someday I'll do this. Well, someday I'll as an island is not on a map, right?
Like that.
It's just not there. And so don't wait for that someday I'll. And one of the things that we talk about in EFM is encouraging people, even if you don't feel you can live that lifestyle just yet, what does 1 or 2% look like? Design that lifestyle. What is 1 or 2%? Step into that. See how you like that. See how you could move forward to there. And you might be surprised at how addicting that feels, and you want to do more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the fact that when I go, and this is a silly, maybe it's a silly example, but the kids are home 10 weeks, right? So they started Monday and they won't go to school until the 7th of September. I think that's 10 weeks. Yeah, 10 weeks. So they'll be with me the whole time. And I have the capability to do that. Right now they're drawing. They most likely will come in, right? Which is cool. That's what being a dadpreneur, fearless father is all about. And so this morning we went and we went to the playground, right? And there's only grandmas and some mothers.
Yep.
And some granddads. Okay, I gotta give them that. But that's it. There's no dad. None. Right? And it makes me, it used to make me, I don't know. I actually don't know. Still trying to find the feeling that, but it's I wish they will start designing their life first, right? Instead of just worrying about that money. So that's great advice, man. I love that.
Well, good for you for leaning into that and taking them and being active. Because I'll tell you what, that is actually a theme we talk about is a lot of guys do feel once they've reached this type of time freedom and flexibility. Yeah. It does feel awkward to be the guy who's like, oh yeah, the dad at the playground on the bench or the dad in the grocery store with his kids on a 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Like that just is not normal. And so being able, I mean, to your point of your show, being fearless, being courageous, being confident in this role that you have chosen to take. Yeah. I'm definitely enjoying it. So talking about that, right? Talking about courage. And as you mentioned, there's so many, I call them zombie dads, with all due respect, because, of course, we all got to respect each other, but it's such a pity, right? And as you said, they're sitting in that cubicle, whining away, right? Traveling, right? What's the average travel time that they have to take to work? At least an hour or something, and then back. So pretty much you leave in the morning before you get to your parents, to your work, not seeing your kids, and then you come home, and if you're lucky, you can give them a kiss goodnight, right? If they're young kids. Where does one then find, or what would be a step to find that courage in your eyes to then decide like, okay, yeah, I need to take that step. I need to find those, first 2% and make steps towards creating my life, and then find a business that I can create, that can support my life. Yeah. I think for a lot of guys, we diminish what we're actually good at, what we're capable of doing. Obviously we're employable, so we have some skills, right? If you're talking about this guy, this avatar of yours that's in this cubicle, he's employable. He's got skill sets. Yep. And so, doing an inventory, kind of digging, excavating who you are, what you enjoy, what you're good at, getting that on paper. I'm a big fan of actually, assessments and tools as well. So everything from Myers-Briggs or the Colby, the Enneagram, Strength Finders, knowing what you're good at and getting that on paper and taking a look at that and saying, okay, what would it look like if I were to offer that service in a different way, maybe on the side, right? I think most guys, we have to start at some type of a side hustle, if you will, some kind of a side job, side gig that takes our skill sets and offers it to others. I think that's a great place for most guys to start. And then there's also other ways where you can talk to your manager, talk to your boss about what would it look like, especially in this economy that we live in now, and the ability to be remote and get work done. I've got a lot of stories of successful guys who have been able to negotiate, a half day, a full day, multiple days a week where they get to work from a home office. So think about that. I mean, even if you just did 2 days a week, you've just saved, in your example, 4 hours of commute time. You've got many more meals with your kids. You get to wake up with your kids, have breakfast with them. So I think there's some creative ways that the guys could approach this to say, all right, I'm gonna step courageously into this area, very practically though, taking a look at what you're good at, and then making that ask to superior about what would it look like if I were to redesign the way I work and how I work. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then what you say, nowadays it's so possible. Yeah. Right. When I moved to Spain and I told my boss I'm leaving the business, while I was doing real well, I was doing sales on the telephone,
right? And I was really successful. I think not even an hour later, he came to me and said, what if you can do your work still from where you're going to live in Spain, calling your customers here in the Netherlands? I'm like, you think I'm going to say no? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Right? So I was, my living expenses went down. My loan was up, but I was getting paid, like in comparison, there we go. In comparison to the Spaniards, I was getting paid 3 times more. Okay.
Oh, look at the pictures. Whoa, you're awesome at drawing.
So what do you say?
Look at that.
There you go. Very good.
The planets.
I like the planets. Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick here and say hi.
What's up, buddy? Hi.
That's Chris. See, Chris is Daddy's brother.
Yeah, that's right. Look at that. Same haircut, huh? Same haircut as your daddy. How old are you? How old are you?
I think.
No. How old are you? But you were 6. There you go.
6.
Really well.
I thought so. I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Ooh.
And she's losing all kinds of teeth. Do you have any teeth that you're losing?
You losing teeth?
Two.
Oh, look at that. So awesome.
Yeah. You want to make another drawing for Daddy? Yeah?
I like that. Is that a ring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now everybody coming in.
It's a party. I love it.
Vacation time, man. Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Then we'll hang it up. For you as well. Make sure you close the door, please. Thank you for leaving it open.
I love it. I would have invited mine in, but they're at soccer camp this morning. So.
Yeah. The who? Okay, that one. Okay, go ahead. Make sure to close the door. No, still not.
Still not.
No. That's all right.
That's all right. So the funny story about a door. This door behind me.
Yeah.
We moved into this place last year. There used to be no door there. It was just one of those like barn doors, kind of slider for style, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Which in theory, is fine, and they can be coming in and out, but didn't work so well when we're recording podcasts and doing all this other stuff. So that's an interior doorway, but it's a solid core exterior door, so it's like soundproof.
Yeah, exactly. See that? I'm not that far yet. For me, I go live. So on my podcast, they're actually just live, either interviews or me going live, and then I turn that into an interview, or I turn that into a podcast. And yeah, man, you'll hear my kids a lot of times.
yeah, I did. I heard a sample. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is what it is. In the beginning, I keep saying to people, like in the beginning, I apologize for it, right? Because you were just starting out, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Now it's like, dude, man, actually, to be honest, everybody that's been on the show is a dadpreneur, and they understand. It's like, dude, man, it's actually fun, right? We love our kids. We're so excited about it. So now it's just like, hey, man, they're going to come in sooner or later. They're going to show stuff. They're going to talk to you. It's just fun. So it makes it nice and light, which is important.
I love it.
And sometimes you lose a little bit of your thread of, where we're going with this. But that's okay. That's why I write out topics. So one of the things that stood out to me is you say that dedicated to our wives. I saw, I think on the website, it said. Okay. You want the pen? Which one do you want, blue or green?
Blue.
That's green, sweetie.
Green.
You want green? Okay. Can you close the door this time when you go out? 3 times the charm. 3 times the charm, baby. There we go. Put that one down with the victories.
Gotta celebrate it when they come, right? Gotta celebrate them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so man, there's a lot of people on actually. All right, let me put this, man. I've never done this, so let me put this on real quick. Look, it's Tom Sylvester. I had the pleasure of interviewing him as well. What's up, Chris? Love the name, Entrepreneurial Family Name. Yeah, it's absolutely a great name. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks,
as I said, dedicated to your wife. I saw on the website, intentional husband. Please share. I don't know. I always say secrets, but it probably won't be a real secret. But share some insights on how does one become at that level, or works towards, right?
Yeah, intentional. That's intentional, purposeful. That's tough sometimes, right? Let's get back to that American dream for a minute. Most guys, it's like, hey, I got this job, I land this job, and then we just sort of skate through, and we kind of just we do what we can. We show up. I think a lot of times, unfortunately, that's how a lot of guys can treat our marriages. Where, hey, we got the girl, we got the ring, we did the deed, and then life just gets busy, right? And we're pursuing our career, and she's doing her thing or raising the family, and we start to drift. And if you're not intentional, that's what's going to happen, and ultimately, what that leads to. And so, when we talk a lot about doing just the little things, but doing them often and consistently. And so, an example of this, right, is date night. Most guys, I am surprised actually at how few guys don't do date night on a regular basis. And I'll be the first one to tell you, this was me many years ago when I just was not being intentional about this. So many times I was guilty of this. We get selfish, about our own thing, our own desires and our own career sets. And sometimes our wives get the leftovers. And so when we started talking about what would it look like for our marriage relationship to do very regular date nights, maybe you start up once a month, maybe it's once a quarter. I don't know if you go from zero, then anything's better than zero. Yeah. But boy, having those times together. And so we try to do it at least every other week now, where we just set time aside to get away. And it doesn't have to be this, big ordeal. You don't always have to go and, out to an expensive restaurant or do something cool. It could just be a very simple thing of getting away, retreating together. And boy, we talk about that is windshield time, right? Where you just get to vision together and check in. How are you doing? I know that sometimes I just call you a mom because you're in the presence of our kids all the time, but how are you, Alicia, doing? What are you excited about? And being intentional, even in those conversations as you approach date night, I like to even approach that date night with at least one or two questions that I have up my sleeve, to ask or to kind of spur conversation. And that really helps in terms of just having a great quality time together where you're just being you. You're getting back to what it was like before you had kids, when you started dating, what attracted you to her, and start with that. So that's just a practical thing. I'll give you an example too. I was celebrating a good buddy. Actually, one of the other guys on our EFM podcast turned 40, and I went up and I flew up and surprised him. We had a 40th birthday weekend, bunch of guys around, and we kind of hopped around to some different restaurants and bars, just hanging out. And this topic came up, and a couple of the guys were like, "Wait, so you date your wives again?" And like, well, what does that look like? And they're just like asking questions, and boy, there were two of the guys who just couldn't even remember the last time. They've been married for years, could not remember the last time they did this. And so we just gave him a challenge. We're like, dude, next month, put it on the calendar, do it. You might start getting addicted to this because it's pretty cool to re-engage.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I have to admit right away that I am not doing date night at a regular. Once we do, you notice it. So it's definitely something that I have to figure out along with all the other things that we have to figure out, right? Look, totally. There he is.
Andy Storch.
Thanks,
up,
man.
Buddy? So I don't know if you know, Klaas, Andy lives about a 90-minute, 2-hour drive from me. So we do get to hang out on occasion. We actually were at a resort.
Man, of the whole family in the water, and it was just dads.
Yep.
I mean, I don't like to use the word jealousy, but sometimes I'm like, man, fuck it. I would love that. I would love that right now. I would. Yep, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I love him, man. He's so inspiring. So, and then I saw that with you guys. I'm like, man, that's awesome. That's exactly what dads need, right? Other dads to show them, like, look, this is what it can be like. Pick it up, and enjoy and find that environment. So yeah, man, that's awesome. I love that. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So let's before we went live, I told him, I said I shaved myself as a revenge for my wife because she likes it when I have hair here and when I have hair here. Now, it was somewhat of a joke and it was somewhat not. So I'm going to tell you what I did or what happened, and then you can tell me what I did wrong. All right?
Uh-oh. I'm not sure. I don't like where this is going, but let's hear the story.
Yeah, all right. So this is what happened. Yesterday at this time, I had a live interview, and somebody was at the door, but I had a live interview. So I have my phone off, of course, but I see it on my desk, glowing and blowing, and I see she called. So I'm putting it away like, look, we discussed it. I have a live interview. So my dear wife, she wrote like Andy just did, right? Or no, this one's more funny. Wait, like Tom Sylvester just did. Twins.
Right.
All right, wait, I got to be here.
See you. There you go.
Twins. I love twins. So she wrote, open the door. Right?
Mm.
And I'm just sitting there like, all right, I got to open the door. Now, I mean, the guy keeps playing. In the end, it was the dog's food. Which, in my opinion, he could have come back in a half an hour, whatever it was, or informed us beforehand what time they were going to come, so I would know. So I was upset, right? Now I know I can't. The only thing I control is myself, right? I can only control how I think about it, how I feel about it, and what to do about it. However, it did affect when she got home, as in, me being not my usual happy, hey, honey, you're home. How amazing was your day? What was one of the amazing things that you did?
It wasn't the embrace with both arms when she came in the door, probably.
No, not really. So I was just wondering, from your kind of perspective, how can I, in such situations, handle that better? I know I'm a step ahead, as in I no longer blame her, right? Yeah. I know it's me, and I know that's the only thing I control. So how can I work on this better so this gets resolved quick within me, so when she comes home I can still be, not be, because I always am, right? I'm always her husband, I always love her, but just be more than just that. Right now I'm upset with you. I'm not going to tell you why, but you'll know because I'm not going to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering of your feedback, because, as you say, intentional, that's something that I have to work on intentionally. Okay.
No, that's good. Boy, I would think of two things there. Accepting responsibility and expectations, and having these two separate conversations about those two. So, let me start with the second one actually first, setting expectations. So this is something, you're in a situation just like I am. I only work from home. I don't have an office. This is my home office. So right outside that door, on a normal day, there's 4 kids and a wife that are just having a blast. We homeschool, so they're always home.
Oh, sweet. And
so we knew that because of that, and because, hey, daddy's here, but he's not always available, we had to, and so Alicia and I, my wife, had to literally have a meeting, literally sit down on the couch and say, okay, what do we want this to look like that's going to work for each of us? So that the kids know when you're in the office, if the door's open, they can come through, right? And so literally we just kind of set up some ideas and some examples of expectations. If the door's cracked open, they can come and go. That just means daddy's kind of doing whatever kind of work. I'm doing work, but I'm in the office. I'm probably not on a call, so you can come in the door. If that door's closed and it's locked, they know that if they knock and they keep on knocking and they don't get a response, I'm probably on a phone call. I'm probably on a podcast interview. And so I just can't be interrupted. Actually, yesterday is a great example. So our family is way into soccer. So our kids are watching the World Cup. My wife used to play all the way through up to college.
Nice.
And so, they're watching multiple games. And I knew I was on a podcast interview yesterday afternoon. I knew that a team was playing, and I hear lots of loud knocks right around the time the game was over. And I knew that he was one of my youngest kids was wanting to come and tell me the score and everything. But I was right engaged in an interview. And so after 2 knocks, I didn't hear anymore. And he knew that, okay,
Nice.
I'll tell Dad later. So the same is true with that marriage relationship, just setting those expectations, knowing that if I have certain types of work that needs to get done, I've got to have some silence, or I've got to have these parameters in place. So expectations is key. And you need to do that on both of your ends too, right? So sometimes it's going to be, hey, you're here at this period of time. This time slot in the morning is tough for me as maybe a woman who's not a morning person, and I need help with getting the kids ready or doing the breakfast or whatever. So let her define some things too that would be helpful for her. And then the other point there is accepting responsibility. And so this is where we talk about staying in your own circle, as you will, not pointing the fingers. So one thing that I would recommend, even in this example you just gave, is maybe having a conversation, tonight, later this weekend, whatever, where you say, this is how this made me feel. This is how this situation made me feel. So don't point the finger and say, you made me feel like this. You did this, you accusations. It's, boy, when I'm focused on this interview, but my phone is, blowing up, this is how it makes me feel. And accepting responsibility for how you are feeling, and then let her share and see how you guys can get on the same page together. So many times we can escalate arguments. I'm sure you know this because you're married and it just happens, right? Is we can escalate arguments when we point the fingers and say, well, you did this and this and this, and it's going to blow up. But if you just say, when these things happen, this is how I feel. I just want you to know that because I want to be known. And is there a way that we could resolve this? So let her do the same.
Yep.
I don't know if that helps, but that's
no, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm a step further. I was just missing this, so I just need to. And maybe I just needed last night to cool off and shave my hair. And then tonight will be the night. Tonight has to be the night because we're the boys and myself, we're leaving tomorrow morning to go to my parents' house for 3 weeks. So we will be without mommy for 3 weeks.
Wow, very cool. Where are you guys heading?
We're going to the south of Spain, so the beach, close to Murcia. My parents have a house there since a couple of months. They bought the house there, so they sold the house in the Netherlands where I used to live. And they decided to also come to Spain so they live closer to their grandkids, which is really cool. They never won the swimming pool. Now they have the biggest swimming pool of the whole barrio, as they call it, the whole neighborhood. So, yeah, kids are happy. Cool. Every time, can we go to Mickey Mouse? Because it looks like a Mickey Mouse swimming pool. So,
oh, man. Is that in the Costa del Sol? Like the southern Spain coast?
From the Mediterranean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very nice there. So we're looking forward to spending 3 weeks there. They'll have summer camp in the mornings, so that gives me an opportunity to work a little bit as well. Yep. And it gives them an opportunity to get to know new people, learn new things. They're going to go swimming lessons. So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time for them, a good time for us. So.
Very cool. That's very cool. Well, you definitely want to leave on a high note with your marriage. So, lean into that conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, which I was sharing earlier. It's like somebody told me if you go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, you're still making progress, right?
That's right.
However, I was actually thinking that just now with what you said. It's like if you make 2 steps forwards, but you make that 2 step back right when you leave and then it gets unresolved, that's not good. Then you probably move a couple of more steps back. So, no, but we'll resolve that right away.
Yeah. If you don't, it'll fester for 3 weeks and grow bigger.
Exactly. No, never mind. I'm not going to go into that topic. Oh, man. So the other thing you said, right? So it's intentional husband, and it's intentional husband dedicated to your wife, and then the other one was loving your kids and being an active father, right? So I thought that triggered me, and I would love to hear your philosophy on that, and so all the other dadpreneurs out there can learn from you on that side as well.
Yeah. Well, boy, I mean, your kids, I'm just got to see your 6-year-old boys, coloring, right, as an example. But so many times we say we're too busy, or we're maybe above what activities that they want to do. And my kids are just like yours. They're in that young age, right? They're so many times it's like, well, let's just play Legos. Let's do coloring and drawing, right? Take the time now to be involved with what they want to be involved with. Take the interest in what they're interested in, even at a young age, because that's going to grow over time, right? And so many times I think as dads, we almost kind of just are in this mentality of, I'm just going to wait until they get, older and I can coach their sports or have, more philosophical or mature conversations with them. Well, guess what? That's a someday, but it's got to be built now. Because if you don't build now, and you don't build the trust and the rapport and just the consistency, you're not going to get there. They're going to be 13, 14, 15 or whatever. And you don't have that relationship to talk about some of the tougher things. And so I'm a big believer in rolling up your sleeves, getting on the ground, wrestling, playing Legos. Both of my boys now have been really involved in soccer. So get off of the phone and the sidelines and get on the coaching field with your kids. Like, I love being a co-coach, and I've coached their teams as well. But there's something beautiful when you take that interest into what they're about, because then it just opens them up to share. And I think so many times too, dads, we try to force conversations a lot of times. Maybe it's around the dinner table or whatever. And we're kind of just trying to, hey, how was your day? And trying to kind of force them to open up. It's so much easier for kids. I don't know if you're like this, but I'm like this. If I go on a walk or a run or I'm doing something active, I'm much more willing to open up and talk about stuff during that time. And I think kids are a lot like that. So as an example, sometimes most mornings I start my day with going on a run or a walk just outside. Sometimes the kids are up early enough to catch me and they'll say, hey, Dad, can I go on a walk with you or ride my bike alongside? Those are some sweet times, man. Like, I'm going at a different pace. I'm slowing down to be with them. And that's not what I would like to do for my health, maybe, or like I want to exert myself. But having them present gets to open up some dialogue that I wouldn't otherwise have. So those are just a couple practical things that I do. I think it's super important, those guys, to start at a young age to be involved with and be interested in what they're interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, love that. I had somebody on the show as well that's a brain specialist for kids. And it's actually known that because if you're walking with your kids, they're in a certain state of relaxation. So it's way easy for them. Like what you're saying, for example, one of the things that I think everybody does is once your kid starts crying or once he does something and he's upset or whatever emotion he's showing, that's when we start trying to teach them stuff. Yeah. Well, that's actually the worst stuff to teach them because their brain is just gone, right? I mean, it's still there, but it's just not absorbing anything. They're in their emotion at the moment. So that's when we really need to take those moments of, hey, we're going on a walk, we're going on a hike, we're going on a run, we're going on whatever it is, where they are just like, calm, relaxed, in a really good, open space for them, right? So I love that, man. That's so true. Advice. And it's simple. It's simple also. Just go and throw out the garbage and say to one of you, or go for a walk with the dogs and say, hey, why don't you, and take one with you, right? You got 4. So sometimes it's good to have just one. Hey, why don't you go with me real quick and we throw away the garbage, right? Yeah, absolutely. And then use that. I mean, what is it? 5 minutes maybe? Depends on where your garbage can is, but we have to walk. We are in an apartment complex. We have to walk a little bit. It's 5 minutes, right? But it's 5 minutes. They get the time to like real quick. And what I've learned as well, and I like that also, is how you ask your questions. Because so many of us, and that's what you said as well. How was your day? What's the response?
Yeah, good. And it's done, right?
Yeah. Done conversation. Like, for everybody. So instead of asking like, hey, what was like one of the most amazing things you've done today? And I think I got this from Andy. I still have it here on my board. What can you teach me today? Right?
Yes.
I love
That's a good
question
one.
as well. So it's like, but I sense that from you. You really have that intention to keep going, keep learning, keep trying things.
Yeah.
And if all else fails, Lego is the key. At least in our house.
Right. Well, you said so many powerful things there. I just want to hit on and emphasize that it's the types of questions you ask and the activity. Back to the guy you had on with the brain scientist. Now, I'm not a brain scientist, but we have studied this a bit. And we had a guy, in fact, we had a couple episodes about this and we talked about it in our mastermind, but one of the other guys on EFM, Chris McCluskey, is amazing, brilliant thinker and has PhD in some amazing psychology stuff. But he talks about the various zones of the brain. So much of that everything starts through, we process everything through our amygdala. That's like the number one filter, right? That's where we have the idea of fear, or it's the fight, flight, freeze, or appease. And if you ask those kind of questions at the dinner table and you're like, so how was your day? It's almost like they're on their heels. Like, oh, I got to be like defensive and like come up with something. And so it just goes to like, good, like you're like hoping for someone else to answer the question. But when you ask those questions are, like you said, they're creative. It kicks up into the rest of the brain, that's where our full functioning goes. That's the creativity side of our brain of like, what could you teach me about today? What was unique about today? We do this thing around our dinner table where we talk about highs and lows or like, what was your biggest win today? Or what was the biggest challenge you faced? How did you overcome that? A lot of times we will, I don't know if maybe the psychology is bad behind this, but sometimes when we bring out dessert, we'll put the dessert in the middle of the table and we'll say, all right, we're not going to have dessert until everyone asks an interesting question to someone else around the dinner table. And it's got to be open-ended, right? It can't be an easy yes or no question. It's got to be an open-ended what, how, why type of question. And so just teaching our kids at an early age to ask interesting questions, that's powerful too, because then they're learning how to engage each other and others around them. Yeah.
Wow. I love that one. That's absolutely good because curiosity, right? Hardly anybody's curious anymore. And I bought the book a while back and I read the book Curious because just of that, I was losing my curiosity and I needed it for this as well, right? For the live interviews, but also for with my kids. And I've noticed, and also now with my wife, it's so important how you ask questions. That's brilliant, man. All right, we put that in the middle, and then we start having our dessert when everybody has asked an interesting question to whoever they wanted, right?
That's right. Yep.
Wow, that's powerful, man. That's a double cross right there to remind myself. Now, like where you are and I am, this time of the year it doesn't work well if you put ice cream in front of the table and it's like 90 degrees outside. You're like, come on, hurry, let's get these questions going. Shoot. No, that's not the right question. It couldn't be yes or no. Oh, man, you're going to have some crying babies there. Woo! Yeah, my kids are going to be upset. Right. That's awesome. That's great. And the football, congrats. 2-1 I saw against Spain, so I was very upset.
I know, right? Sorry.
But then again, the Netherlands won. I'm more Dutch than I'm Spanish. So the Netherlands won last night, 2-1 against Japan. And we have the opportunity to see, and I am rooting for that US against the Netherlands in the final. They're
looking strong, man. I think you guys are going to go far.
Yeah, that don't look strong enough to me. But
well.
We'll see, man. We'll see. So, man, I had lots of questions. Since we're talking about the kids, right? I want to ask you this. This is one of the things that I'm struggling with at the moment, right? So you saw my boy. He's 6. Oh, he just turned 6. So next year he's going to first class, right? And that's the time where they have to start learning or knowing how to read. And that's one of the things that it's still very difficult with him. So we're working on it. So yesterday I was working with him on it. Man, that was a battle, right? Not just for him, but for me as well as a dad, right? Because you know what happens. It kicks in. You want your son to be great at it. You want to help him. You're there like, shall I push him a little bit more? Shall I not? some I'm actually at a loss. Like he cried, and it was difficult for the both of us. Let's say that, right? So my question to you is, I mean, man, you got 4 kids, and probably 3 of them are already reading, and they're homeschooling. So you must have some advice for me, both from what's a great tip to make them read, right, or to help him learn how to read. 1, but 2, also from an emotional aspect, from a child and from a father. Is that too much in one question?
No, it's okay. It's packed and stacked, but we'll take it, man. This is important. And I will say this off the bat. My wife is amazing at this, and so she gets the credit for teaching our kids to read. You know, I will read with them, and they love to read. But boy, she has just done amazing work in getting them to that point. And I'll tell you this too. She has a teaching background. It was all secondary though. And so for her, just the fear really of, well, I'm not equipped to teach someone how to read. Like I didn't teach them how to read. They all already knew how to do that, right, at secondary level. But, and you mentioned it earlier, the word curious. I think you need to camp out on the word curious with each of your kids, because they're all going to be different in terms of what they're interested in and maybe how soon or quickly they might want to be curious about reading. One thing that we've realized, so our first kid, our oldest son, Jesse, is a voracious reader. I mean, he is just from early on wanting to read a lot, and now reads like books a week. It's just crazy. Wow. Noah, our second son, didn't take as quickly to it. And so one of the ways that we got him to be a little more interested is asking him the questions like, what are you interested in? Right? I mean, maybe it's for your son, it could be dinosaurs or sports or
planets.
Planets, right? Yeah. Planets. Okay. So we would go to the library. So I would, do this with your son. Head to the library or somewhere you're going to maybe buy some books and look for books on planets. Look at the things. What is he interested in? Back to that idea. What are they interested in? When we did that with Noah, who's super into sports, I mean, he's got a ball in his hand every hour that he's awake, I think. Nice. When we did that, instead of just saying, here's the primer books that teach you how to read, and he just fumbles through, we get him interested in at least turning the pages and looking at and trying to recognize letters and words, because he's associating it with something that he's interested in. So if he gets a book on football and soccer, man, he's going to be in that book. And then you can come alongside him and say, hey, what are you learning? And look at this, and then you just gently and carefully approach that into let's start. What does this word say? And because again, he's in that creative zone where he's interested in something that he likes. So stay there. And I would say this too. I mean, at an early age, as early as you can, as babies, just read with your kids, read to them, because the amount of time that you read books to them, they will see that that's a habit that's been instilled in them from an early age. And so that's just something that, hey, as a family, we read. So those are 2 tips. I don't know if that's helpful this stage of life for you, but I would say, do as many things around planets as you can and see how that goes. Yeah,
especially the first one. The second one, we read a lot. Right, so every night we read. Actually, it's a war in the house if we say, like, if we're tired and we just like, look, it's really late. We got home late or something, right? They went to a party yesterday. They were home late. It's like, okay, now come on, brush your teeth, get your pajama, let's go to bed. It's like story time. It's like, come on.
No time for this.
No. Book. We ain't going to bed unless you read a book. So I actually love that. So yeah, that's really good. So as a reward, then I got to read a book. So they both get to choose a book. We actually today are going to go to the library and exchange our books, because we're going to go away for 3 weeks. And I want them to have books there. And the month of July is planets, so that will be perfect. Okay. So I choose a month theme. So last month was insects, right? And then they get. What I do is I give them options. Like I say, okay, this month, what would you like? Nights, insects, or planets, right? And then they choose what they like most. And then your idea is even better. So I'm going to try and have him take the book first and read some words and stuff like that. So, but yeah, they get from school, they get like the letters like L and then L-A, la, lo, li, lu. So they have to learn that. And he does that. And he can say, for example, pa, and then it takes him a little bit and he says lo, but he can't connect them for some reason. Like he can't say palo. And that frustrates the hell out of him and it frustrates the hell out of me. It's like, because as a dad, maybe you could shine some light on that. For me, I don't get it. One, he says the other, but he can't say them together. You know what I mean? So he says pa, he says lo, and then I say, okay, so what does the word say? And he says banana. Right? So I'm just sitting there looking at him like, dude, are you trying to? I don't get it. Are you trying to be funny with me right now? Is this like, is this like your first development of some sense of humor that I don't understand? I don't get it. I know, and he's not fine, so that's something wrong, right? So, yeah.
So sometimes too, I mean, obviously kids are different. They learn differently. They develop differently. But I think that curiosity, if you can camp out on that's good. But also some kids are very much tangible in how they learn. And so here's just an idea as you were talking about that. I think you mentioned Legos too, right? He's into Legos. Get a couple pieces of Legos and mimic the idea. This is pa and this is lo, but we got to join them. These are meant to be together. They've got to connect. And so like put that together, put those syllables together and get the little pieces of Legos out and say, well, these are the segments of each word, but they have to connect. And so they are designed from Lego to connect this way, right? This word is designed to be connected, not to be split apart. So that's just a tangible thing you could try and see how it works.
I like it, man. Yeah, I'm going to definitely try that. So now I got 2 things to do today. Awesome. All right, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. Really, I do. It just popped in my head. Like, it's being more creative with what we have to teach them new stuff. And then what they like, right? Because they like Lego, so great.
Yeah. Anything. I feel like we force so much on kids at an early age to expect them to adapt to this program or this curriculum type. And man, kids are naturally curious. They want to learn about their world, right? I mean, how many times after your kids started to talk, how many times do they ask why? Right? Yeah. They want to learn. They want to learn. And so, I mean, that why question when they're 3 and 4 gets old quick, but foster that. Yeah. Right.
Why? Yeah. Oh man, I love my 3-year-old, but sometimes it's like he asks me why, and I ask him why, but why? Why?
What? So, one of my friends, Michael McGreevy, after a succession of a many whys, he'll just turn to his kids and say, "Dude, you got to ask better questions."
I like that.
It's like you're not getting to your answer, so ask a better question. Make him think.
Man, that's next level. So, man, we're running around the time fast. I actually noticed that I think we even have the same order.
I think we are literally twins here. This is pretty amazing.
This is next level Twilight Zone stuff, people.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Almost at the same time.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. Been an awesome conversation. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. We still got some time. I got tons of more questions, but I want to ask you this, man, because I think you can shine some light on this as well and help other dads in this. So one of the things that I've been struggling with in the beginning was there's so much stuff that you want or think that you must do, etc. Like you got work, you got your wife, you got your kids, your friends, your parents, your whatever it is, right? And the Klaas or the Chris, you get lost, right? And there's nothing focused on self-development. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit of insight on, have you been struggling with that in the beginning? And if not, then what was your strategy right away to make sure? Because, well, I believe at least it's very important, right? If there's no me, then there's no us, right? So what was your strategy for that? What is your strategy for that?
Yeah. I love that question. And I'm big into this space of personal and professional development. Gets back to one of the things we talked early on about knowing yourself. What are you gifted at? What are you interested in? Having that conversation with your wife too, so that you're not going to be tracking on different planes and one's not going to be ahead of the other there. So giving her the freedom. My wife, as an example, she loves to travel and explore and adventure. And so, we've had that conversation of, in fact, this weekend, she's going to be heading down to Puerto Rico with her cousin to celebrate the birthday, just the two of them. And it's something where she gets to fill her cup up because she gets to invest in that area of travel and adventure that she really likes to do. And I've given her that freedom to say, hey, let's do that a couple times a year because that really fills you up. For me, I have to schedule time where I love to read. I love to pour into what I'm learning, how I'm growing. But and you've probably heard this analogy is maybe cliche, but remember when you get on a plane and they go through the safety mechanism protocol is put your own mask on first before putting on the others, helping up one another.
No.
And I think so many times we get that backwards because most people, we just don't have enough time for us and for our enjoyment. And so really serving out of a full cup. One of my mentors and friends, Dan Miller, talks about this, serving out of a full cup. So you got to fill yourself up in order to pour into others. If you're empty, you've got nothing to give. And so I really approach that in terms of, well, what do I need to do for myself that's going to help fulfill me? And so, on walks and runs, it's listening to podcasts to fill me up, making that time intentional. There are times where we'll just have like a family, reading half an hour where it's just like silent time. We just get to read. But for me, that fills me up. So now I'll tell you this too. One area where I'm struggling in is I need to carve out more time for just a hobby for myself. A lot of times our activities, our free time do get centered around the kids and their involvement. And so I'd like to schedule some time where, hey, daddy's going to go and play some beach volleyball for an hour or two, once a week, or go swing the sticks on the golf course. I haven't done that for years, but just that time to get away as a hobby. That's one area where actually I'm struggling in, and I'm aware of it now to where I want to put this on the calendar. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice, man. I like that. That's great. Can you repeat that, please? When you said, and maybe I've written it down wrong, but you say it's easier to give from a full cup. Yeah. Did I say that correctly? Or
it is. It's easier. So just think of that analogy. I mean, if you have to give and pour into your wife, your kids, others, but this is empty and you've got nothing to give, that's going to be a struggle. Versus filling this up, you've got stuff to pour out. You've got energy that you've poured into yourself to then give toward others, to be the intentional father that you want to be, right? To be the present husband that you need to be.
I like that. I like that analogy as well. I think that hits home real fast for everybody. So that's great. And yeah, what you said as well, right? With the airplane, but nobody realizes why that is. But if you have no air, then you can't really help people.
Right.
Great, man. I really appreciate that. Man, we're at the end. And as I said, I got tons of questions. Chris, for all those others out there, and there have been a lot that I've listened in today, that have still some questions or would like to follow you. Man, so many people responded. I can't. Oh, there it is. So besides efmlive.com, and I think I saw you put your website on chrisniemeyer.com as well, right?
Yeah.
What's the best way to follow you? Is it just these two, or get connected with you? What's good ways to do this? Yeah,
both at efmlife.com is great, but chrisniemeyer.com, we can put that in the show notes or wherever, but chrisniemeyer.com, that's where I do coaching and consulting. I love to talk about how to help guys overcome fear, build confidence in their life, and chase their dreams. And then I also talk about working with businesses and small business owners. It's just about systematizing and developing processes in their business so they can work in their sweet spot. So those are two key areas. I'm on Instagram. You can find me just straight up Chris Niemeyer. That's where I'm pretty active, and then on Facebook as well. So would be happy to connect with anyone here that just wants to be a more intentional father, an engaged, active husband, and still kill it in business.
Nice. I love it. Thanks for that. If you are listening right now to the replay, then all these places to reach out to Chris, you can find them in the description and click on the links and get connected with him right away. So again, Chris, thank you so much for being on. It was a blast. I learned tons from you. Everybody else that's been on, Andy, Tom, Frank, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for your comments and for being with us for such a long time. It's still an hour out of somebody's life, right? So I really appreciate you guys. Chris mentioned something very important: take action as much as you can. And I always say that every single time I end up. If there's one little thing that Chris mentioned, like for me, it's the finding books that my son can read. Take action right away. So as soon as I'm disconnected, we're going to the library. We're going to find some books about planets and do that. And I highly recommend, if there was something that clicked with you, take action, do it right away, because that's the best way to, move forward. All right. Anyway, That's it. Have an amazing day, and I will talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. I'm looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.